And then I moved back to my hometown and got a job in a pub because economy. Should have done STEM instead of inventing all those extra genders. The manager, who I'll call Dave.
He says it like a joke, but
he means it.
Yes, it's fucking true.
Yeah,
like,
totally.
There's no defense to this. There's no defense to this.
Was about 7 feet tall.
And he's not even, you know, it's funny. He got a degree in philosophy.
And yet gender philosophy.
Gender philosophy. And yet, what is his job aspect? He wants to be a fucking actor. He doesn't want to be like something to do with philosophy until his YouTube stuff came around.
Yeah, why didn't you get a job in like the theater or a degree in theaters? I mean, I knew a bunch of theater majors when I was in college, and I always wondered how they were going to find jobs.
Jacked and very accustomed to getting his own way. You know, one of those managers who likes to think that he's one of the gang but has no idea how intimidating he actually is. The chef was one of the biggest assholes.
Beta!
Oh
Beta! That manager was really buff and it was intimidating. Beta!
Yeah. Oh, wow.
I have ever met in my life. When talking to the female staff members, he had 2 modes: sexual harassment or shouting.
I know that guy.
Most shifts, he managed to make someone cry. One time, me and some of the other staff complained, but Dave couldn't fire him because then we'd have to close down for a couple of days and get another chef and get all the menus reprinted. By the way, pro tip, if you ever go to an English pub for food, either get a burger or fish and chips, because they're just about the only things that are actually cooked on the premises. The Sunday roast arrived pre-cooked on Friday night and was heated up in the microwave. The owner of the place, who I'll call Ebenezer Scrooge, was also an asshole. He would come by maybe once a week, wave to the regulars, pull a couple of pints, then find some excuse to steal the contents of the tip jar. He also had a security camera.
The boss is stealing the tips?
That's pretty gross.
It is totally gross, but I'm...
Yeah, if it's true.
Yeah, I'm dubious that you'd keep your employees, especially if you're like letting your chef get away with murder because you don't want to hire another chef. You're going to go and steal the tips of the workers that are probably going to quit. I don't know. Seems dubious.
Well, it's funny because he just talked about his previous job was also working in a bar where the boss was way better. A lot of
experience.
Yeah, the boss was way better and the environment was way better too. There was no abuse going around, and they even let him perform fucking stand-up, okay? And he was getting paid $15 an hour.
Yeah.
And yet it's just as bad as this job, also in a bar, where the boss fucking sucks and it's in a terrible environment. And also, this is what's so hilarious too, okay? He's been going on and on this whole thing about how awful like bosses are and how they don't do anything. And yet he's just contradicted this entire premise, because in the previous job, it's so much better of an environment because he has a better boss who gives a shit and is there and is working and is involved. And it seems like, as he said, is a nice person. But then when he goes to another job where the boss sucks ass, the shittiness of the boss, goes down and affects the entire business. It's almost like when the leader is good, things work. And when the leader is bad, things don't work.
Yeah. Yeah. Results may vary.
Specifically to watch the staff on the till. And that got me thinking. If he wanted to steal the tips, there was nothing any of us could do. He had a camera watching us, but we didn't have a camera watching him. He kept a record of every transaction to make sure we didn't steal from him. But when he gave us our paychecks at the end of the month, we just had to trust that it was right. We didn't want to work with the chef, but we had to, because Scrooge, who didn't have to work with...
Wait, that's so weird. You don't have to... When you get your paycheck, you don't have to trust that it's right. You have a contract.
Math.
You know how much you're supposed to be paid.
Yeah.
I don't know, you keep track of your hours. Like, you have to log your shit. Like, what is he talking about?
This is America, though. In Scotland, who knows what they do in Scotland?
I don't know. Like, what the fuck he's talking about?
They just guess. They're like, I feel like you worked about, $125 this week. I'm just going to pay you that much.
With him said that we did. When Dave gave us our shifts, we just had to trust that he hadn't booked us for illegally long working hours. The onus was on us to check the law and to try and persuade him to change it if he had.
Oh, I see. He doesn't want to have to like have any responsibility for himself. The onus is on himself to make sure he's getting paid properly and to make sure that he's not working illegal hours. Oh, the humanity.
He had to look out for himself, Sitch. Come on.
Oh my God.
Nobody wants to do that. We want our mommy to do it for us. We want our mommy, will you check my paycheck and make sure I got paid right? Please. Please, mommy. Fucking glass houses, man. My wife is reading subtitles to me, so I should shut up.
Dread going into work in that place. The powerlessness made me feel humiliated, less than a human being. I felt sorry for my co-workers.
Think how Javier feels, you bastard. You used his story illegally.
It's funny because imagine if the timeline was reversed. If this was the first bar job he worked, and then he worked the better one second, he'd have a completely different attitude about it. He'd be like, "Oh, this is amazing. This is so wonderful."
Totally. He'd be Javier at the new place.
Exactly.
He'd be like, "Javier, woo, high five. I love this place. My last boss was an idiot."
I know.
I felt sorry for anyone who had to do a job like that. I even felt a little bit sorry for Dave, who was ostensibly on our side, but had been turned into a lapdog for a man who would surely sack him the second he stopped being profitable. I felt sorry for the millions of people for whom that job would have been a godsend, but who would be left to die in the streets because the Scrooges of the world couldn't find a way to squeeze money out of them. Over time, I stopped feeling sorry for anyone, and I just resented everybody in there, including myself, both for landing in the job and for not being tough enough to hack it. When I looked at the team,
Here's the dark truth about a lot of this stuff. If all the people were working in this restaurant and it's like so awful and toxic environment, they just fucking quit. You just have to leave.
Totally.
It's only because people put up with abusive behavior that abusers are allowed to continue.
Yeah.
And that's like, there's no way to get around it. And that's sort of the problem with a lot of this stuff is that people like Philosophy Tube, they want someone else to take they want someone else. They want the responsibility of someone else to take out the abuser as opposed to just not putting up with it themselves. They're like, why can't the government or society take out the abuser? Why do I, the person being abused, have to walk away from the abuser? Why can't someone else do it for me?
Well, also he wants to use this situation to say that it's the system that's the problem. It's the system that's empowering. I don't know the name of the asshole boss now, but it's a system that's empowering that kind of behavior. When really, it's corruption. It's the guy at the top who has become corrupt.
Right.
I mean, you have to fight the corruption at the individual level. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. The system, you're not going to get a better system than the system that we have now. It's pretty.
Well, he's explaining. It's so funny because, as I said, he's basically explaining why bosses are so important because their attitude controls the environment.
Yeah. Well, this guy's probably snapped from dealing with dickhead employees all the time. He's like, "Fuck it, I'm not getting attached to."
Well, I don't know. I don't want to throw we don't know anything about this guy. Why he sucks.
Well, I don't know. My personal experience is like I've helped people at work and they've kind of backstabbed me and stuff. And after a while, you're like, okay, well, fuck, I'm not helping anybody anymore. Fuck this.
Of course.
This is nonsense.
Right.
And then sooner or later, you're Dave or whatever this guy's name is. You're like, yeah, fuck you.
He called him Scrooge.
Oh yeah, Scrooge.
He didn't
That's
give his real name. Yeah.
He's protecting Scrooge, but he wouldn't protect Javier. I'm literally offended by this. This is awful.
TV, and I saw people talking about freedom and democracy and choices, I got angry because I felt it was just a bad joke.
Work makes a mockery of freedom.
It's so funny. This is like the fucking socialists in a nutshell. like the bougie socialist in a nutshell. I'm working a shitty job. People are talking about democracy and freedom. I'm not experiencing this in my lived experience of daily life. Therefore, we need to burn the system down.
Yeah.
Like, why don't you just try to before how about this? Before you burn the fucking system down and replace it with something that has always backfired and created more chaos
Pain and suffering.
oppression and pain and suffering in the world, why don't you just try to improve your situation by getting a new job first? Why don't you try to do that first before you tear everything down? I know it's asking a lot, but why don't you try to improve your individual system, situation first? Just a suggestion.
Yeah.
The official line is that we all have rights and live in a democracy. Other unfortunates who aren't free like we are have to live in police states. These victims obey orders or else, no matter how arbitrary. The authorities keep them under regular surveillance. State bureaucrats control even the smaller details of everyday life. The officials who push them around are answerable only to higher-ups, public or private. Either way, dissent and disobedience are punished. Informers report regularly to the authorities. All this is supposed to be a very bad thing, and so it is, although it is nothing but a description of the modern workplace.
Okay, this is like so disgusting.
The modern workplace is a police state? I don't know. What the fuck?
Wait,
what are you talking about?
I'm trying to get to that quote.
The modern workplace is a police state? Come on. Come on.
Oh my god. He like
What are you
keeps
doing?
it up for like a quarter of a second.
Yeah, because he
anyway.
doesn't want you actually to read that crap.
Okay. Well, so first of all, imagine how privileged and disgusting it is to compare working at a job in a normal democracy to living under an authoritarian regime. Like, imagine the fucking privilege that you have.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You think if you tell your boss, fuck you, that employers are going to come in from the other room and drag you off and put you in a camp where you either work to death or get shot?
Yeah, exactly. Totally.
And this is what's so crazy. Philosophy Tube, he made the decision, the free will, maybe not free will, I don't think he has an answer free will, but he made the decision on his own to study philosophy.
Yeah.
After working jobs he didn't like. Okay, not giving himself a clear career trajectory or path for himself to follow.
Yes.
And then he makes the decision himself to work at another bar. And then he makes the further decision to not quit that job and try to find a job somewhere else and to continue getting abused day in and day out. And he's comparing this, all these choices. He's making all these choices himself. And he's free to leave at anywhere else at any time and try to do something else, as he's shown he's done his entire life. He fucking flew halfway across the world on a goddamn whim. And yet he has the fucking audacity to compare him in a job that he just, for whatever reason, doesn't want to leave because he feels psychologically trapped or whatever bullshit it is.
Yeah.
He compares that to living. And yeah, he's comparing this psychological issue to living in a fucking police state.
Yeah.
Where you literally have to do what they say or someone will come and murder you.
He doesn't know what a fucking police state is. He doesn't. He hasn't read anything. Like, there are places in the world that are just terrifying. And to compare this situation to those places is totally offensive. It's totally offensive. The Arab Spring was started by corrupt police. The guy who, a guy lit himself on fire in front of the city hall, basically, and that's what started the Arab Spring, because some police came and asked him to pay for some daily permit that would have basically taken his wages for the entire day. It would have cost him money to pay this permit, but he was forced to do it because they couldn't do anything, and the injustice drove him to light himself on fire in front of fucking City Hall. And that's what started the Arab Spring. That's a police state, okay?
Right.
Your fucking stupid job where your boss is mean to you is not like, pay me your day's wages plus some, or I'm going to drag you off to jail and incarcerate you for the day. Yes, it's fucking infuriating, these people. These fucking snot-nosed kids, they're like, oh my God, people were mean to me at work.
Yep.
Oh man. This is why, like, as soon as you're in one of those hero jobs, you know, like you join the military, you learn immediately what real work is. Like what real work is. This guy hasn't really worked. Like what's involved in a philosophy degree? Come on. Have you seen some of the math that you have to do in STEM? It'll terrify you. It will literally terrify you
to avoid doing that much math.
Yes. Yeah. It's just sad. It's so sad. It is so sad. And it is victim culture all the way. It's like, oh, I am such a victim. Like this is another thing, because it is kind of like a stolen valor type thing when he's saying he's making this video talking about, oh, poor Javier and how Javier is so oppressed. And I'm oppressed just for just having to see Javier suffering makes me oppressed when he doesn't even really know the situation.